Good afternoon or morning, everyone, depending on where you're connecting. And thank you to be here with us. It's really an incredible pleasure to host this roundtable for the Cristofori Piano Festival in Padova. And I will actually come back after explaining the project of this year's festival, but I will now leave the floor right to the president of the association, Bartolomeo Cristofori, who organizes the festival, Mr. Gianpaolo Pinton. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Bartolomeo Cristofori Association, which I have the honor to chair, aims at making known, also via this event, the name of Bartolomeo Cristofori, the great Italian genius who invented the piano, the most loved musical instrument in the world. Cristofori is one of the great personalities who portrays the history and the culture of our city. In fact, he deserves to be counted among those who have been born in Padua, contributing to magnifying the image of our city in the world. Thus, a music festival is dedicated to him, which has become an annual event in the last 4 years. I thank all the eminent authorities who are with us today, in particular, Madam Mariya Gabriel, European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education, and Youth, Mr. Jan Smith, President of European Music Council, and Mr. Paolo Petrocelli, Lead for Italy of Sound Diplomacy. I am also grateful to Mr. Vito Borelli, Vice Director, Representative of the European Commission in Italy, and Alessandro Tommasi, Artistic Director of the Cristofori Piano Festival, for the work and the support provided. Enjoy the event. And now, I give the floor to Alessandro Tommasi. Thank you.
Thank you, Gianpaolo. Thank you a lot. And for your greeting. Yes, this is really a big opportunity for the festival. Actually, not only we will be speaking about culture, we will be speaking about Europe. The festival this year actually was completely centered about the role of music and culture in European cultural identity, which is also why we are here about to speak about this very topic. What is being done for culture in Europe? What will be done for culture in Europe? What may music do for Europe? This is also very important because we all have a share, we all have something to do in this beautiful project, which is the European Union, and we are extremely happy to be here to speak about it. This year's festival, in fact, actually was organized with the help of the Italian representation of the European Commission. So I double thank Mr. Vito Borelli, which I now invite here for a short greeting as well, because everything this festival was done already in September, and then in October was only possible because the European representation in Italy actually helped us also doing it. So, Mr. Borelli, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alessandro. Good afternoon, everybody. It is for me a real pleasure and an honor to introduce today this important event devoted to the future of culture and music in Europe, an event that is enthusiastically supported by the representation in Italy of the European Commission, as Alessandro just said, which I am representing here today. I was with you in Padova in September on the occasion of the first European Day of the Festival Bartolomeo Cristofori, and it was really great to exchange views with participants on the innumerable reasons that keep Europeans together. Today, we are here again to talk about values in the presence of distinguished guests, such as the President of European Music Council, Jan Smith, of our friend and music expert and a lot of other things, Paolo Petrocelli, and especially, I must say, with Commissioner Mariya Gabriel, to whom I would like to express my heartfelt thanks for being in Italy today, though virtually, to share with us her European message. A message that I think is needed more than ever in Italy these days. In times of COVID, our attention tends to be focused in particular on health and economic issues and on how Europe can mitigate the disastrous effects of the pandemic. This is certainly fundamental, but the European project is much more than this. It is a dream that many artists, musicians, and men of culture have cultivated for centuries. So I think that this is a time when not only our bodies, but also our minds and souls need to be nourished with beauty, wisdom, and harmony. So I wish you a very good round table. Thank you very much again for inviting me, and good continuation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borelli, really for your help and for your greeting. And I will now just shortly again introduce the facilitator who actually will help us during these 45 minutes of discussion with Madame Gabriel and Mr. Ian Smith about, as we were saying, the importance of culture, of music in a European dream. Mr. Borelli actually told this message of hope that Europe was for many artists, for many musicians. In fact, this year we are all in the world, in the entire world, we are celebrating the 250th anniversary of Beethoven's birth. And we decided as Festival Cristofori to not simply program Beethoven's music, which is of course always programmed because it's one of the most important cultural heritage we have in the entire world's history. But actually, we also decided to give the festival a European trace, we may say, speaking about how did Beethoven dream Europe? How did he think about it, about his universal message that became perfectly clear then with the last symphony, the Ninth Symphony. We also programmed, played in the Liszt version for piano solo, because of course this is a piano festival, but we want to tackle more and more topics, not only speak about music and program music, but also to expand our range of arguments, always keeping art and culture as the center. And the perfect person to actually speak about this and to facilitate this meeting was Paolo Petrocelli, who is, as Vito Borelli said, not only lead for Italy for sound diplomacy, but many other things. So thank you again, Paolo, for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Alessandro. Hello, everyone.
Here we are. So what will we actually be speaking in the next less than an hour?
Well, this is really a unique opportunity for us, for the festival, mostly in general, let me say, for the European artistic community to reach out with two key figures for culture, music in Europe. I'm very delighted to have the opportunity to interact today with the Commissioner and with the President of the European Music Council and give another opportunity to them to reach out with hundreds of thousands of European musicians, artists, cultural managers that are now struggling and facing such huge emergency. But we want to, I believe, send a very positive message. Europe is doing a lot to face this crisis and is providing a lot of tools to cultural organizations out there to face this emergency and to look at the future positively and hopefully. So again, this is a great opportunity. Thanks to the festival to facilitating this, but most of all, thanks to the Commissioner for taking the time to be with us today, along with the President of European Music Council. Many things to talk about. I can't wait. So we are ready to go.
Yes, I will then invite our two most important guests, starting with Mr. Ian Smith, President of the European Music Council. Thank you for being with us today.
Hi, good to see you. Good to be here.
And thank you again. Connecting from Ireland, isn't it?
Yes, I'm in my quite new home in Ireland. I spent most of my professional life based in Scotland, so I stayed in the Celtic world, but most importantly, I've stayed in Europe, thank goodness. So, we won't
Yes,
mention,
this is also...
we won't mention the Brexit word.
No. Well, but connecting with
Yeah.
culture, of course, this was something quite big, quite important. So thank you. We are appreciating that this streaming time we are actually living in this strange, crazy year we are actually experiencing. Help us at least organizing this kind of meetings from people coming from different cities. Paolo is in Rome, if I'm correct. I'm in Padova right now, where the festival is. You are in, of course, in Ireland, and also Commissioner Gabriel is connecting from her office in a few minutes. So thank you again.
Well, it's great to be here. It's an honor to represent, as always, the European Music Council. As you know, or maybe people looking in don't know, we are based in Bonn, in Germany. We are very much part of Europe's network of creative cultural organizations. Our prime area is music, but music doesn't stand alone. Music is very much part of the large cultural identity of Europe. And if I start saying obvious things, they're obvious things because I believe them with a passion. I spent nearly 30 years as a professional musician, so I'm one of the lucky ones. And then I spent the remaining years of my professional life, which I hope will continue a little longer, working with musicians, for musicians, promoting music, and now with the EMC, as Commissioner Gabriel knows, and it's lovely to share a platform with her again. She gave us the honor of joining us at our European Forum in Bonn, which would have been our European Forum on Music. And as you mentioned, Alessandro, it is we would have had that forum as part of the Beethoven Fest, 250 years celebrating the birth of one of the great musicians. And you're speaking from a piano competition, an international piano competition. And I think it would be a safe bet that as part of that competition, the Beethoven piano sonatas have featured probably every year. And that just tells us the legacy of this Wunderkind, this wonderful composer. And so greetings from me, as you said, from Ireland, but most importantly, from the community of European musicians. Music, I've been lucky, very, very lucky that music has been my life. It is my passion. And no one will disagree on this panel that without music, there is no life. So the situation that we are facing, and Paolo has just mentioned, where thousands and thousands of great musicians are now struggling to survive, not to be successful, just to survive. And we know we'll come through this pandemic. We know there is a light now, maybe a shining light at the end of a long tunnel, that vaccines will be available. But most importantly, the flag that flies for culture is one of the biggest flags in our European community. And it will fly high and it will fly strong, with or without a wind. And we are here today to talk about the value of culture, the value of art in our society. And I always look from the perspective of the aesthetic, the quality, the value of music that we all and through our senses and our feelings. But also, as I'm sure Commissioner Gabriel will mention, the huge economic value of the music industry. which we cannot separate from the high quality that a competition such as Padua represents by bringing great artists and great musicians to perform in Italy. So greetings from me, from the European Music Council, and all my colleagues in Bonn who I know are watching, so I'll be very careful what I say. It's
Yes,
good here
thank
and
you.
to share this platform. So thank you.
Thank you again. As also, of course, I remember that this meeting will remain on both our social platforms, both on YouTube and Facebook, if you will want to watch it again or rewatch it or watch it in a different moment. And I will now actually welcome Commissioner Gabriel, who connected. I don't see the camera, but we will try to see if it actually works. So let's see, because here she is, and hopefully connecting also camera and microphone soon. Okay, yes. We have the greetings of the European Music Council from Bonn, as Ian Smith said. Voilà. Well, while we wait for Commissioner Gabriel for connecting, I will leave actually the floor to Paolo Petrocelli to start introducing properly, better than me, this meeting, and start bringing out all the topics that we will be facing for the next 45 minutes. Thank you a lot, Ian Smith. Thank you again, Paolo Petrocelli. And please start, and we will then wait for Commissioner Gabriel. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alessandro. So I would like to take this moment while we are waiting for the commissioner. Ian, tell us a little bit more about the European Music Commission. European Music Council. So what is the aim and the scope, the mission of the council specifically?
Well, the musicians, the Music Council, more than 70 member organizations. Every member organization is a membership organization, so our members are not individuals, they're organizations. Range of music, from contemporary popular music through to classical music, to avant-garde music, to small ensembles, large ensembles, and of course probably the most important area from which everything grows is education. So we have major organizations representing school teachers, representing conservatoires, the formal, if you like, the formal mechanism to go through that journey from school to college, hopefully to the profession. And we have an organization that looks after specialist music schools and specialist places where music is available and taught. We look to represent those organizations in a wider context in Europe. We are funded by the Commission directly through Commissioner Gabriel's colleagues and department. We are also funded by the federal German government because we are based obviously in Bonn, and we receive support from the city of Bonn where the office is based. The mission of the European Music Council is simple. It is to exploit and explore the value of music at every level, from societal backgrounds through to the profession. Major organizations that are members also represent what we call the volunteer, or if you will, the amateur sector. Probably the most well-known would be the European Choral Association, where our colleagues are promoting singing, the first skill. I'm married to a singing teacher, so I know all about the value of singing. And she was also a choral conductor for many years. And this is an area of our cultural life that has been most badly hit by COVID. Respective governments throughout Europe are saying you must not sing, you must not even talk loudly, you must maintain a safe 2-meter distance. And this really has really hit amateur music making, where people are playing and performing and coming together to make music together because of their love of music, not because they need it as a profession. And we mustn't forget and overlook that sector. So our role is working closely with other European organizations such as Culture Action Europe, making sure that we have a strong voice for the music sector and the music profession. We engage very closely also with the commercial music sector, and that engagement and partnership has become stronger since we published the European Agenda for Music, which is available online through our website, but is also now available in a number of European languages. So it's one of the most important projects and programs which the European Music Council has been involved in recent years. And most recently, we have been involved with the Music Moves Europe initiative, which is a European Commission initiative. And we are working very closely with them on also a range of programs. Another one is called Shift program. So putting it in a nutshell, Paolo, I would say that if it says music on the label, then the European Music Council is involved at a multiple level, from the core interests of our membership through to the outcomes that we want to see for the profession, both, as I said, aesthetic, qualitative, and quantitative, which is very much about the economic benefits of music as a cultural tool and a cultural product.
Thank you, Ian. Well, in the meantime, we received the message that the Commissioner Gabriel will be with us in 5 minutes. So let me take 2 other minutes to just focus a little bit more on music. So we know, Ian, of course, that the COVID is affecting all sectors of society, but specifically is making a serious damage to the cultural sector, and specifically to the performing arts, and so to the music community. So from your point of view, what do you think is the most strong, element of damage that the music community is facing right now because of the COVID emergency?
I think the most damaging thing at the moment is the inability to perform live. That's the one single thing. It's not about performances in front of 3,000 people or even 300 people. It's any performances. And we know that a lot of performance, and there are very creative people out there, and much of that is seen now online. The digital platform is growing in importance. I mean, people from my generation have to accept that the digital tool is now not just with us, but it's an essential means to promote our culture. There are generations of young people who, if they can't access information on a mobile phone, they're not interested. So we have to understand and be relevant to them. And I think relevance and credibility are 2 very important descriptors of what the European Music Council and what the music industry and sector is going through right now. So the lack of live performance opportunity is killing the industry in the short to medium term.
Right. Well, in the meantime, Commissioner is here. So,
yes, I see her.
Madam Gabriel, welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
I am relieved you have appeared.
Thank you very much. Sorry, President, for interrupting you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Of course, we know you're extremely busy, so we would like to have 30 minutes of conversation with you and use this platform to reach out with hundreds, if not thousands, of musicians and cultural professionals that are watching us, to tell them more about what Europe is doing at such a difficult time. So we know we are in the middle of the second wave. Governments all over Europe are struggling in trying to safeguard the health of our people, but also, of course, to face so many different challenges, from economic stability to national security. and of course, to also implement all different kind of solutions and give national states the tools to address all these issues. So we know that one of the most affected sector by the COVID is, of course, the cultural sector. But we all know that we realize more and more there is a growth of the awareness in the people that culture is needed, especially during this very hard time. But with museums, theaters, and concert halls that are closed, thousands of professionals, artists are losing their job, or they're risking to lose their job. So, Commissioner Gabriel, how Europe is reacting to this, specifically for the cultural sector?
Thank you very much, Paolo. Dear President Smith, dear participants, it's a great pleasure for me to be here together with you. Paolo, you said it, my agenda is quite busy, but I have always time for culture, for music, for our cultural and creative sectors, because I would like to start with this. It is important always to stress that culture is Europe's soul. Culture, music, it is what keeps us together as a society, and at the same time, what contributes to building our image of society. And here, I would like to say that culture and music contribute to the construction of a common ground of values, ideas, aspirations that we can define as our European identity. And just take what we are celebrating today and through this year, the 250th anniversary of the birth of Ludwig van Beethoven. Most of us can also hum the famous fourth movement of his Ninth Symphony, the first musical score to be added to the UNESCO World Heritage List in 2003. This shows how music becomes part of our lives and our cultural heritage. And for all these reasons, we have been supporting and promote culture over the years, mainly through our main dedicated instrument, Creative Europe program. And now all of us know that cultural and creative sectors has been and is still severely hit by this crisis. What we have done, it was really to use all our best to mitigate the impact on the sector. And that's why our European response was divided in 5 steps. First, to establish horizontal instruments available also to the sector. I'm talking here about the Coronavirus Response Investment Initiative with structural funds, the temporary framework for state aid measures to support the sector, and our instrument SURE. And all these instruments were available to member states, but not all of them knew about it, and more importantly, we did not know if they use it. In this context, we launched on 24th of April, after a meeting with our ministers of culture, a platform for member states to share good practices. Don't hesitate to promote some of them. Second step, what was important is to have a maximum of flexibility within our instruments to redirect some calls. First, with Creative Europe, we launched a new scheme of 2.5 million euros to support the physical circulation and the digital distribution of performing art works in all the countries participating in Creative Europe. Second, with Music Moves Europe, we launched a call for proposals, also worth 2.5 million euros, to support the recovery and post-crisis development of Europe's music sector by helping it to become more sustainable. Through Erasmus Plus program, third element, we launched a special call worth 100 million euros for partnerships for creativity. First time with a focus on formal, informal, and non-formal educational skill development and inclusion through creativity and the arts. Fourth element, we also identified new COVID-19 measures eligible for financing under our cultural and creative sectors guarantee facility. I'm talking here about 251 million euros. Third step, that was important to promote culture also in other initiatives, notably in the tourism and transport packages adopted in May. I would like just to remind to our participants that in Europe, 40% of tourism comes from cultural tourism. Another one step important for me is really to work hand in hand with the sector. And that's why in the month of May, we launched the Creative Unite platform, put in place for the sector and by the sector, offering a common space for all cultural and creative sectors in Europe and beyond. And even until now, we have more than 30,000 access, more than 600 contributions. Through this platform, what was important is that for the very first time with this magnitude, we organized a conference gathering all the cultural and creative sectors, as well as all the European institutions, Commission, European Parliament, Council, to discuss the needs of the sector for the future. And this brings me to the fifth step, work on future support beyond the current programming period. That means that we need to see what's about how to have more financial resources, more instruments available, and more synergies between the different instruments. I will stop here, but you can see that what we try to do is on one side really to mobilize the instruments that we already have at our disposal, to show a maximum of flexibility, to identify and shape the solutions together with the sector, and now with the new period to build synergies in order to use more opportunities for the support of the sector.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Well, it's very clear that the effort from the European side is huge, is massive, and definitely there are so many issues that you are addressing with so many different kind of solutions. Ian, President Smith, so from the music sector, how is the collaboration with the European institution? Is there a positive interaction between the national level and the European level, and how EMC is facilitating this interaction between national music organization and the European institutions?
Well, I'm happy to say that we enjoy a very close working relationship with Commissioner and her colleagues, and we have been very involved. I'm glad that she mentioned Music Moves Europe after she joined us, because I had already mentioned it, Commissioner, and you know that we are very strongly involved in distributing and seeing how that increased investment can best be utilized. And of course, from the European perspective and from the European Music Council's perspective, not just because we are based in Germany, but from a much wider perspective, we very much welcome what Commissioner has just outlined, of which, of course, we are aware. And I love her comment that culture is at the soul of Europe. Many of my colleagues who I speak to regularly all around the world, but particularly throughout Europe, are probably tired of hearing me say things like that. But we say it, as I said earlier, that, you know, without culture accounts for, as Commissioner has just said, 40% of our international tourism. People come to a particular country because of a festival, because of an event, or because of the architecture or the culture of the city or the place. And Padua is, of course, such a place. So I absolutely welcome, as do many of my colleagues. I was involved in the setting up of the program that has resulted in Music Moves Europe. We look at the major trade events such as Groningen, Eurosonic, such as Womex, and we see there the international audience that we have in the industry, and we also see again the aesthetic and the economic absolutely locked together. So, putting it simply, we welcome what Commissioner is bringing to the table, but she's also right. She's also right in saying that many of those member states are not aware of everything that is available to them, and that is, of course, a concern.
Right, and in this regard, the European Music Council is facilitating the communication with the national. Ian.
Sorry, I disappeared there to turn on my power. which is
Okay, but your camera now is pointing.
right. Hang on.
Okay.
There we are. My
Perfect.
apologies.
Okay. We're getting worried.
Technology
So
was never my strong suit.
I was saying, and how the European Music Council is facilitating the communication on a national level, because this is one of the major points also. Most of the time we know that the music community, the cultural community feel a little bit far away from the European institutions, right? The complexity also of, accessing some of the fundings sometimes create a little bit of distance between cultural organizations, music organizations, and European institutions. How we can address this?
Our role is very clear that not all European cultural organizations are funded directly through the Creative Europe program. So it's really our role to ensure that those organizations who do not receive direct support have all the information that they require through European Music Council, through other organizations. I've mentioned the European Choral Association. I could also mention the European Jazz Network, the European Association of Conservatoires. All these are members of the EMC, and the ones I've just mentioned are also funded directly from the Commission. But many of the smaller organizations are not. So if you like, we act as a conduit, or we can signpost these organizations to save time and energy, to ensure that they can access such funding as the Commissioner has just described and do it directly themselves, which is very important, because the landscape of culture in Europe is huge, is so broad and involving. And as the Commissioner has just said, if not all the member states are fully aware of what is available and utilizing it to their advantage, then if you think that on the level way below that, many of those smaller organizations are struggling right now to see how they can survive, not just move forward, but to survive. So that is a role that the European Music Council can and does play, and I hope plays very successfully. And we are one of those conduit signposting organizations that make sure that such funding that is available within the Commission's responsible area, the EU 27, is accessed. And of course, our responsibilities lie across the whole of Europe, with not just the EU 27 membership. So it's important that we keep everyone informed and make sure that that information is easy to understand and to utilize. So we welcome, of course, the additional resources that the Commissioner has outlined.
Right. Thank you, Ian. Commissioner Gabriel, so when you started your mandate, you had a very, very ambitious agenda, strategic agenda, and for the very first time, Europe decided to put in the priority to invest also in culture and cultural heritage. So how do you see, this agenda to be managed during COVID, but especially looking at the future? What will be next? What is the future scenario that we will have to face in the post-COVID phase?
Well, that means that our support for the cultural sector should be continued. And of course, I would like to start by a Creative Europe program that will continue. And allow me here to share with you my satisfaction from the good news, the agreement between the Parliament and the Council, and the 600 million additional for the budget for Creative Europe. I think that it's very, very good. And what is important is that now with Creative Europe program for the next period, 2021-2027, we'll have some novelties. And the good news is that these novelties now can be reinforced from a financial point of view. Allow me just few minutes on these novelties, because we would like to have a new cross-border mobility scheme for artists and cultural professionals. That was already developed under the current Creative Europe program as a pilot scheme e-Portunus, and it was extremely successful. So that will continue to the entire period. The second focus, there will be on one side how to promote cultural and linguistic diversity and cultural heritage, on the other the reinforcement of the competitiveness of the sector with our creative innovation labs. And I'm paying a special attention to the innovation labs, because for me it will be really important after to build synergies with the new cluster on culture, with Horizon Europe, something first ever seen, and with the new KIC, with the European Institute of Innovation and Technology on cultural and creative sectors. I think that here we should use this opportunity to touch as much people as possible, but more importantly, to join resources, to have common ideas in order to support the sector better in a more efficient way. That means that with the Creative Europe, we'll continue our specific sectoral support. Of course, for the music sector, we'll build on the implementation of our actual preparatory plan for the 2018-2020 with Music Moves Europe. The book sector will be supported, and architecture and cultural heritage. But now what I would like here to say is that we should use the opportunities given by Erasmus+, because Erasmus+ will receive 2.2 billion euros additionally. And I think that here, on the base of the call that we already launched, Partnerships for Creativity, we need to see what are the best practices and how we can better respond to the needs of the sector. And all this for me, that means that first, I would like to ensure synergies within my portfolio. It's first time that we have culture, education, research, innovation together, and that's the first part. The second, it will be to build synergies with the other funds, and I'm talking here about especially the European Regional Development Fund. I know that, for example, Veneto region shares funding from the European Regional Development Fund for a project called Cult Create, supporting new cultural and creative tourism products and services to promote jobs and growth. And I would like here to say that events like the Bartolomeo Cristofori Piano Festival generate our enthusiasm, generate ideas, and generate benefits for all of us, for our society and for our economy, and we need to support this. That's why I'm very glad that this session now is happening only few hours after the official launch of our joint action plan with the Committee of the Regions. I would like to say to the music sector, please pay attention to this, because it's the first time that together with our Committee of the Regions, we have a joint action plan for the next 2 years with 4 main areas and 26 actions. So you know me, I stay very pragmatic. One of them, of course, is culture. So let's see how at local level, at regional level, via synergies with other funds, we can better support the sector, because I fully believe that we need to work on this. Third important point, of course, green transition. And I would like here to say that music sector has, for instance, already started moving along this line with the Music Declares Emergency. It will be important to engage all citizens at all levels to turn the Green Deal into a cultural and societal project, and music has an extraordinary power to do that. And this initiative is very close with something more concrete now, and that will become more and more, I hope, is our Bauhaus initiative. Remember, under the leadership of the President Ursula von der Leyen, we would like really to see that Green Deal, it's a cultural and people-based project. That means that here we should all use the design phase by June 2021 in order to see how we can really make a huge contribution. Because if you would like to have people with us, music has an extraordinary power to do it. And I'm very much counting on this. Final point, let's stay very pragmatic. Now, the next months, we'll all wait for the national strategies of our member states in the framework of Next Generation and the Resilience and Recovery Facility. Please always remember that the European Parliament voted a resolution where they are asking that at least 2% of the money in the Resilience and Recovery Facility is earmarked for cultural sector. I'm very strongly in favor of this proposal, but that will be up to all of us to stay mobilized, to speak with one voice, and to assure the implementation and the follow-up of all these initiatives. So that's my message. What I have seen in 1 year, that we reaffirmed the support for the sector. Now we identified new instruments like with the Committee of the Regions, synergies within my own portfolio, but we need to work here closely with our member states in order to use the extraordinary opportunity given by Next Generation EU with flexibility, with adequacy to the ground, and with much more concrete actions in favor for the sector. But that will be our common challenge for the next few months.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madame Gabriel. Ian, talking about innovation, Madame Gabriel also mentioned the importance of innovation. What is most needed in the music sectors when we talk about innovation? Is about technological innovation? Is management innovation? Leadership innovation? What is the most needed from your point of view?
Well, it's all of those things, Paolo. But when Commissioner mentions these new instruments, mentioning innovation, immediately in innovation, I go back to copyright and intellectual property rights and authors' rights, because to make real movement here and to move forward into the next decade, then we must protect authors' rights. We must ensure that copyright and intellectual property is at the core of those innovative developments. So I would make that plea, and I know I'm speaking to Commissioner who understands the importance, because we've had these conversations before. And so I would say, please just remember when speaking about innovation that we don't forget that without protection of authors' rights, then the economy does not follow and develop the way and develop the potential that it could realize. So that would be my response, Paolo. And I'm also welcome the practical consideration of transport and mobility. Live music needs to move. It can't all be online. And the Green Deal that the Commissioner refers to, we are very, very well aware. And Commissioner, if you will remember, when you joined us in Bonn, online, of course, in June, then the theme of our conference would have been ecology, would have been the ecological and the Green Deal, if you will, and how it applies to musicians, and the movement of music, both digitally and physically, because we have to have both. We can't have everything online. We need to return to a healthy balance where people, of course, pay attention to ecological matters, which are so important. They're very much in our mind at the moment, where we see the potential outcome of the US election and the Paris Agreement, possibly US going back as a member, which would make a huge difference to Europe. We can't undervalue that. And so in innovation, please remember authors' rights, intellectual property, and copyright. Then we'll be happy. We are happy, but we'll be even happier.
Thank you, Ian. Well, talking about new generation, Commissioner Gabriel. So many young artists, young musicians, students are very, very worried, about the future. They decided to commit their lives, their studies to music and to art and to culture, but they see just, major issues ahead. So how do you think, what kind of message specifically for the new generation we can give to them?
Well, my message is a message of hope, thanking them for their message of hope, because I would like really to say that we all have something unique when we talk about young people, when we talk about young people in cultural and creative sectors, but that means that we need to come together. That's for me the most important thing, because remember what as your boss said, music as life can be done in one way, together. And that's my message to those young people. Please, on one side, stay mobilized, because we are counting on your extraordinary talent, on your ideas. At the same time, you are a part of a generation using new technologies. Yes, President, I know digitalization can't solve all the problems of the sector, but it can be part of the solution. In that sense, what we have seen during this crisis, that was extraordinary, this online content that they gave to us, because I think that we all will have extraordinary memories with this online concert. And I would like to tell to our young people, don't hesitate to use the instruments that are already available, but don't hesitate to shape together with us, via your ideas and your talent, the necessary new instruments, better in order to better support the sector. We have something really unique to reach the largest audience, and it's your energy, it's your motivation. Preserve it. At the same time, let's help us really to show that you in Europe, for all people engaged in cultural creative sectors, Europe is their home. But for that, we need to work, we need to build synergies, we need to continue not only to talk, but to act as one. So that will be my message for them. All for one, one for all. It's important to stay united and mobilized in this difficult time.
Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Ian, how do you think that the music community in Europe, do they feel European? What's your perception? I mean, like musicians, artists, they feel European citizen. There is this European identity within the music community in Europe already.
Well, I can speak. I can speak very personally. As you know, Paolo, I've just moved from the UK to Ireland. Reason number one, my family is here and our grandchildren are here. But reason number two, I'm a European citizen. I will stay a European citizen till the day I die. And I know very well that the majority of musicians that I have had the great pleasure and honor to work with over so many years, they consider themselves as European. Yes, they have their national identities, they have their national cultures, but they very much are part of the European diaspora. And we celebrate that. The Commissioner has mentioned language, linguistic skills. I mentioned earlier the European agenda for music. Our commitment is it's available in so many different languages now, because language and culture go together. We can't all speak English. I'm very lucky that it's my first language, but we should communicate. And I think the Commissioner is right. When we look at young people, organizations like ours must commit to make sure that access to music and access and participation in music is as strong in the next year, 2 years, as it was before we had even heard of COVID-19. And that is a commitment that I make right now, that we will make sure that our engagement with young people and emerging professionals, our fellowship program, those young people who are now coming into a very, very difficult profession. The Commissioner is right, but we be there for them, because they are, again, something we have heard said many times, they are our future, and we must look after them and nurture them. And there's a phrase we often use, TLC, tender loving care. You care for people, you get the best from them. And that's my experience, and no more so than with young people. And that's our commitment, certainly today.
Thank you, Ian. So we are getting close to the conclusion. Commissioner Gabriel, one last question about cultural diplomacy. So we know that Europe is implementing more and more cultural diplomacy in its strategic and political agenda. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Well, the last 2 weeks there was a lot of events links to this topic. What I would like to say is that on one side we definitely should continue to use this soft tool. But that means that we need to build partnerships, that we need really to see what's about the next steps, because we already have extraordinary examples with UNESCO, with the Council of Europe for the protection of cultural heritage. Just remember 2 weeks ago, together with Europa Nostra, I gave the European Heritage Awards. That was amazing to see that one of the best projects that was with Italy and Syria. So I think that what is important now is really to assure coherent approach together with High Representative, and I must say that the support is huge. It's not a hazard that we are together during these conferences, but on our side, really to now, thanks to what's happened during this crisis, to see how we can use this crisis as an opportunity, because we need international partners. We need to continue to strengthen our cooperation, our partnerships, but that means that we need to be more and more precise. And together with my team, we are working on this, and very soon we would like really to propose some next steps. Sorry for that I'm not able to tell you more now, but as you already raised this issue, for us now the priority is really to help the sector for the recovery, really to pass over this very difficult time with more instruments, with some new approaches. And of course, in parallel, we are doing the other work, but that will take just a little bit of time to present you the next steps.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Commissioner Gabriel. Thank you so much, Ian Smith. Let me call back Alessandro for the final remarks. I would like really to thank you, Commissioner Gabriel, for your commitment. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Same to Ian Smith and the European Music Council. Thank you very much for your commitment and your work, especially during these very, very difficult days. Alessandro, please.
Yes, thank you all. As repeating at the end, I'm the artistic director of the Cristofori Piano Festival. So it's an extreme pleasure to have both of you, or three actually, with Paolo Petrocelli here. Thank you a lot for accepting our invitation. It has been an extremely interesting session of discussing with a lot of information, which I hope will actually go through the internet for the next days. Again, I will thank the Italian representation of the European Commission for making everything possible. I will thank Paolo Petrocelli, Ian Smith, and Madame Mariya Gabriel for being here, and of course the association Bartolomeo Cristofori, which is dedicated to the inventor of the piano, who was born in Padova and is since the mastermind behind the entire festival. Looking forward then to have all of you here in Padova, hopefully in Italy, for next edition of the festival, again speaking and organizing how the future of culture and music will be for our dear Europe. So thank you a lot, and thank you, Paolo, for the wonderful facilitating and moderating.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.